Hi, I'm Dan Ostrike, and for the last 30 years, I've been a leadership coach and culture change consultant. In this and other videos, I share ideas to help you build your leadership capabilities. I call these ideas Leadership Essentials. This is part one of a three-part series on addressing your own leadership blind spots. This segment defines what a blind spot is and why blind spots can be such a major impediment to a leader's credibility, reputation, and performance. The second two segments of this series describe the kinds of feedback needed to address blind spots and offer action-oriented principles that can serve as a roadmap for personal change. Okay, let's get started. A blind spot refers to anything we don't see or acknowledge about ourselves, especially patterns of behavior that have negative or adverse impacts on other people. For example, I once heard about a brilliant doctor who played a powerful role at his hospital. However, from time to time, when working in a group, his manner became critical and abrasive if he disagreed with his colleagues. He could put people down and cut people off in a particularly demanding and patronizing way, claiming his way was right even when it was clear he was wrong about an issue. So a key administrator offered some coaching to the doctor. Speaking on behalf of his colleagues, she offered him a whole variety of specific examples of times when his behavior got in the way. However, at the end of the conversation, the doctor refused the coaching assistance, saying that the examples did not conclusively prove he had a problem. This is a classic example of a blind spot, characterized by denial that a problem exists. This is precisely why the term blind spot fits so well. It's the problem we can't see. It's what we don't know that we don't know. The bottom line is that blind spots cause leaders to lose the gift of being able to influence others. They undermine their capacity to guide people, manage work, and resolve issues. They make mistakes and repeat them. In short, blind spots cause leaders to be less effective than they could be, and sometimes leaders with blind spots even truly do harm. We all have blind spots to some degree. Nobody knows themselves perfectly, and we can therefore ask ourselves two key questions. First, how serious are the leadership blind spots I have? And second, how truly willing am I to confront those blind spots and overcome them? Let's look at those two dimensions in more detail. You can think of seriousness as being on a scale from relatively little stuff that other people tend to work around to leadership behaviors that erode trust and, in the worst case, powerfully violate others' dignity. Up this scale from minor impediments to working relationships, such as a leader who talks too much in staff meetings or who doesn't say thank you quite enough, are leadership behaviors that directly affect trust. A leader who's indecisive, doesn't deal with conflicts, who micromanages, has favorites, breaks promises, betrays confidences, or exhibits microaggressions toward others can cause a whole lot of background frustration, tension, and demoralization, especially if people believe they've tried to give feedback to the leader, but it just hasn't worked. At the top of this seriousness scale are blind spots where the trust issues have become so bad that they are actively destructive to teams and the organization itself. This can include times when a leader's behavior is blatantly bullying, manipulative, unethical, or discriminatory. These blind spots are the most serious issues that must be addressed immediately and thoroughly. The other way we can describe blind spots is according to a leader's resistance to addressing those unconscious areas constructively. Here the scale starts with a simple lack of awareness. If you tell me about a blind spot, for example, I talk too much at staff meetings and I just needed that information, I might feel a little embarrassed, but I can make personal changes pretty easily and quickly. Resistance is low. But many blind spots certainly can be tougher, with stronger emotions involved. I might be avoiding awareness and so have more resistance. Maybe you've told me that I have a reputation for flipping perspectives depending on who I last talked to. This does not correspond to my view of myself as a decisive leader. If you try to tell me about my flip-flopping, I might argue or become defensive, sidestep the issue, or deny that it exists. I might feel pretty upset, privately experience some guilt or confusion, or feel misunderstood and rationalize that others just don't understand me. I might complain about how they are really the problem. In this case, I might need a supportive, safe environment combined with firm, helpful information in order to reflect and consider the situation, ultimately acknowledge the problem, and begin taking steps to correct it. Finally, there are blind spots where the leader actively blocks awareness and shuts down any further discussion of the issue. Resistance is high. In this case, if you attempt to tell me about the problem, I'm likely to feel offended. How I show that might differ from person to person. I may no longer want to talk to you at all. I may get angry. I may blame you and attempt to retaliate. In this case, as the leader, I am sealed in the sense that I won't talk about precisely what others need me to consider. It may take a collective effort where everybody is working together on their leadership growth, for example, or it may take higher levels of authority to get me to pay attention. If I still refuse to see my negative impacts on the organization, that authority may really have no choice but to ask me to leave. Looking at these two dimensions, it's all too easy for us to focus more on how others should address their blind spots than on doing the deeper work of finding out about our own first. It may be altogether natural to want others to do that blind spot work before we do, but we and whole organizations can get stuck right there. And yet, it's precisely the experience of learning how to deal with our own sensitive zones that is the best preparation for talking to others about theirs. Keep in mind, no one can be forced to look into their blind spots. There's no magic process that can guarantee awareness in others or in ourselves. But one thing's clear. Leaders risk a lot when they refuse to listen to the views, beliefs, and perceptions of others, when they avoid or they block discernment and self-knowledge. At their best, leaders don't wait for others to come tell them about their blind spots. They go after them on their own. If they truly are leaders, they don't wait for organizational training and development programs. They're proactive in seeking out the unconscious elements of their own makeup that are getting in their way. Those who do seek this information, whose spark of inner truth invites them to understand themselves and their world a little better, find that learning about their own blind spots stretches them intellectually and emotionally. It enhances their empathy, humility, and humanity. It opens them up to new possibilities as they liberate themselves from the narrowness of their past conditioning. In part 2 of this series, we'll take a look at the kind of feedback that can most help us address our blind spots. In part 3, I'll share a guide for obtaining and using that information to best advantage. See you there.